I'm a certified ethical hacker. For some years now, have been practicing and dealing with some other companies, consulting for others. And I'm also a computer hacking forensic investigator. So when the crime has happened, how do we track the people and get to know who did what, from where, from which country, from which machine, which computer, which phone was used. And I'm also a data protection supervisor by the Ghana Data Protection Commission. And I also hold a master's in information security. All right, so that's what I do. I work for myself at JIT Plus and some other few companies I consult for. I also love teaching, so almost every weekend I'm teaching at one place or the other. So that's basically about me. All right, so we can bust on then. Now, all across the world, data protection issues since 2018 has become very big, and almost every nation is enacting some laws in one form or the other to ensure that the data of their citizenry is highly protected. All right. The whole world awoke. That's in 2018 when the GDPR, that is the General Data Protection Regulation, was actually launched in Europe, when it began effect in Europe. Since then, several other countries have woken up to the idea of protecting the data of their citizenry. And Ghana has not been left out. In the year 2012, Ghana also enacted Act 843, also known as the Data Protection Act 2012. And anything about data protection is governed by this act. So now let's look at what this act is saying. Okay, the act actually also established the Data Protection Commission. And the commission's job is to protect the privacy of the individual and personal data. And how are they going to do so? By regulating the processing of personal information, and also to provide the process to obtain, hold, or use or disclose personal information for related matters. Okay, the 8 functions include: 1, to implement and monitor compliance with the provisions of the Act. Then also make the administrative arrangement it considers appropriate for the discharge of its duties. So on the point 1, what it means is that the Commission has the power to ensure that every organization that holds personal data, people's information, they comply with the Act. So what that the Act is? The Act specifies what organizations must do, what measures they have to put in place to protect the data of individuals. Okay, then they also can investigate any complaint under this Act and determine in the manner the Commission considers fair. So what happens is that if an issue or a case is reported to the Commission, they have that investigative power to go and investigate any organization that is reported to it by any citizens of Ghana, so that they will act on it. Then they will determine whether it is what the report or the complaint is about. Is it valid? Does it warrant any penalty? Does it warrant maybe some measures to be put in place by the company? All right, then they also keep and maintain the data protection register. The data protection register is a public register of all organizations that have registered with the Commission. So right now, when you go to the Commission's website, that is dataprotection.gov.gh. When you go there right now, there's a place you can click to search for any organization that is in Ghana, whether they are registered with the Commission or not. So if you don't find their name there, that means that organization is not registered. But if you should find their name, that means they are registered with the Data Protection Commission. So now, the whole subject matter of the Act 843 is about personal data. Now, what then is a personal data? It is any information relating to a natural person who can be identified directly or indirectly by that information. 1, the emphasis is on natural person, because natural person, we mean a living person. So the act does not cover dead people. So if the person is dead, you can't say, yeah, they don't have that right, or the act does not deal with people that are dead. However, there may be some other acts or laws that deals with the details or information about dead people. But this act in particular does not cover dead people. It only considers people who are natural persons. That means individuals that are living. All right, and we say any information that can help us identify, either directly or indirectly. By directly, we mean, for example, when we mention your full name now, we know the individual that we are talking about. We mention your ID and some other information. And indirectly, for example, if I say Kofi Mensah, in our Ghanaian settings, when we say Kofi Mensah, we know there are several thousands of Kofi Mensah you are going to get. So that information alone does not directly identify Kofi Mensah. However, if I mention Kofi Mensah of Abu Abu, house number 842, you see, an additional information together with the name can help you identify a single individual. So all this related information put together is what we call what? Personal data. So an example is the name of the individual, the location or house number, any location data, addresses such as the person's email, Ghana post address, house numbers. These are all information that are considered personal because it can lead us to identify an individual. So for example, if you give me your Ghana post address number and by your name, we can know the individual that is living in that place with that particular name. An email address links to only a single individual. So aside the email, we get the details, we know the name of the individual, the phone number, what the country that the person is. So that is how come it is also what? A personal data. Then we also have some online identifiers. Right now, we are all connected to this platform and we can we are connected together. Fine, the device you are using, be it a computer system or a phone, any of the gadgets that you have used to connect, it is uniquely identified by what we call an IP address. It is only you or only that device that has that IP address. So therefore, the IP address can make us identify you, the individual. Therefore, it is what a personal information. Your devices have what we call the MAC addresses unique to every single gadget. Then your handles, your Twitter handle, your Facebook, your Instagram, all these are what? Identifiers or things that can help us identify. So they are your personal data. Then we also have what we call the advertiser, identifier for advertiser. Every single phone that you have, okay, has a unique ID that helps advertisers. So all those adverts that you see coming to your device, it is by the help of the IDFA. That's for Apple device users. But for Android users, we have what we call the advertising ID. It is some long series of numbers and it is unique to only that device. So these are also what? Personal data, because once you're able to identify that device, we will know the user behind that device. And that makes it what? A personal data. All right. Then other things like physical, physiological, genetic, or mental, economic, cultural, or social identity, something that can help us to identify you. All right. So all these are what? Various forms of what? Personal data that we talk about. Now, there are some terms that we need to be familiar with so that when we mention it, then you would know what we are really talking about. So the first point is what? A data controller. In the Act, it defines a data controller as either a person or group of persons or an entity that determines the purposes for which and the means by which personal data is processed. Let me break this one down. All this jargon, what it means is that if you say you are a data controller, then, for example, you see NSBE, okay, can be considered to be a data controller because you see the forms that you give people to fill, you are the individuals, or it is NSBE Ghana that determine that, okay, let's create a form to register members. We need their phone number, we need their email, we need their full name, we need their job posting, their profession. So anybody who determines, not the one collecting the information, but anybody who determines the kind of or the type of information that needs to be collected for a particular purpose is called a data controller. So regardless of whether the same organization, the same individual that is taking that information or not, so long as you are the one that determined what needs to be collected for a particular purpose, then that either that individual or that organization is what we call a data controller. All right. So, for example, if you have a WhatsApp platform, okay, that you are using for friends, you are just, sending them motivational messages and others. That one, you are not supposed to register with the Data Protection Commission. But once you begin sending them adverts, you are selling pajamas, you are selling bikinis, swimwears and other things, bed sheets and other things. The moment you start advertising for commercial purposes, then the law requires that you register with the Data Protection Commission, because in this case, you are a data controller. You are picking people's information and you are processing it. So if your company or organization decides why and how the personal data should be processed, it is the data controller. So NSB say, hey, we need a form. We need to, our members, we have to be sending them information. How do we send them information? We have to get their email addresses and be able to send them information. So then NSBE is a data controller. Then we have situations also where we have what we call joint data controller. That is when two or more people or organizations jointly, they come together to determine that, hey, we want to do A, B, and C, and these are the kind of information that we need. Then they become what we call joint data controllers. All right. Then we also have another term called a data processor. And we say the data processor processes personal data only on behalf of the controller. The data processor is usually a third party external to the company. The duties of the data processor towards the controller must be specified in a contract or another legal act. So, for example, the contract must indicate what happens to the personal data once the contract is terminated. So, for example, who is the data processor? Now, NSBE takes information about its members. Now, you give that data to a third party, for example, where you send your bulk SMS or bulk emails. That company, so for example, if in Ghana you are using Haptel to process bulk SMS to your to your members, Haptel becomes what we call a data processor. So they are utilizing the data, or they are following your instruction to deliver text messages to your members. So in this case, they are known as a data processor. You are the controller because you determined what information should be collected and for what purposes you are going to use it for. However, you give it to a third party to process it, that is to use it to perform a duty on your behalf. Then they are the data processor. However, there must be a contract between the two of you, indicating what you want them to use the data for. All right. Then what then is also data processing. Now, any operation or set of operations performed on personal data on set of personal data, it includes the collection. So by collection, you see NSB, you have designed a form and you give it to a third company to register your members. The collection of the names alone is also called processing. Whether you are recording it or you received it, or you are storing it, you are backing it up, you are filing. So for example, even if it were hard copy forms that individuals have filled, and you are arranging them, you are filing, you are putting them into files, it is also called processing. Retention, you are keeping it. It's also processing. Displaying it, whether you are scanning, you are reviewing it. Even when you are deleting, it is also called processing. Or destroying the paper materials that you have these names and other information on. So you are destroying, you are even going to burn it, you are going to shred it. It's also termed processing. You are editing, you are updating, modification, copying or transmission, or you want to transfer it through email or any other thing. If you are doing any of these things that is presented on the screen, then it means you are processing the data. So it's a whole lot of activity that constitute what we mean by processing. So any company, third-party company that you order to do this in any of this on your behalf. So for example, let's say NSB, you have a lot of people who have registered in the past, let's say 100 years, and you want to destroy that data, and you contract a company to go and even burn it, destroy it. It is processing. So that company is called a data processor under the Act. All right, so you could see that based on this many activities, yes, then you are likely to be a processor. Then remember also that a company can be a data controller and a data processor at the same time. So for example, NSBE, well, you have decided how information should be collected. Or let me use another example. For example, let's say what MTN. MTN, okay, can be a data controller and a data processor at the same time. One is they have their own members, staff. They keep records of all those people. They determine the kind of form, the HR forms that individuals must fill and all that is. So that is that makes them a data controller. Then they are also processing other people's information, right? The customers that they have, their information, they are arranging them, they are deleting, they are modifying. You go to MTN, you say, oh, I've updated my address or emails or updated. They are processing your data. So they are also data processors. So a single company can be a data controller and a data processor at the same time. All right. Then what is data breach? We are trying to see why it is important or why data protection matters. Well, a data breach is the intentional or unintentional release of secured or private or confidential information to an untrusted environment. What we are saying that data breach can be intentional or unintentional. When a set of information that is considered to be private or confidential goes into the hand of the wrong person, the wrong individual, or somebody who is not supposed to have access to that, then we can say there is a data breach. Now, intentional, for example, maybe there's a disgruntled employee, okay? The guy is fired. It's like, this company, I'm going to show you Pepe. Then before you realize, it releases all your staff, their names, their addresses on Facebook or on your Twitter handle. That is intentional. It can be unintentional. The person is by mistake. For example, you are supposed to send a list of all registered NSBE members in good standing to your international headquarters. Then all of a sudden, by mistake, you send it to the wrong email. That is unintentional release of private or confidential information. So regardless, be it intentional or unintentional, there's still a data breach. So long as it gets into the hands of the unintended individual, the wrong person, then there's data breach. Fine. Other people call it data information disclosure, data leak, information leakage, or also data spill. They all mean the same thing, data breach. Then a data breach is an incident where information is stolen or taken from a system without the knowledge or authorization of the system's owner. So hackers break into a banking system, then they steal the user's name, their passwords, and other stuff. That is also a data breach. Or a company, a small company or large organization may suffer a data breach. So data breach is not limited to a particular type of organization. It can be small, it can be big. They all will suffer a data breach. Then stolen data may involve sensitive data, proprietary or confidential information such as customer, student data, trade secret, or matters of national security. So you can imagine, for example, if hackers break into a hospital information management system, then they release every patient and the kind of ailments that they have been diagnosed of. This becomes a serious matter. All right. Okay. Then it can also become a national security matter. For example, you see, last year during December, when the EC published, information about Ghanaian people, it was a serious issue. But in the heat of the moment, we couldn't have made so much, because of the election issues, it was, there was too much tension. So there was no way we could have been adding more fire to it. All right, the EC went back to rescind their decision anyway, even though their law, their act, it mandates them to publish, but it never asked them to. It didn't determine the exact method. They only indicate the appropriate method. However, they thought that was the appropriate method, but the national outcry made them rescind their data so that, people are now very careful. All right. Now, what is privacy in itself? We say it is the right to be let alone, or freedom from interference or intrusion. So your privacy is that you have the right to be let alone. You don't want people to interfere in certain aspects of your life. So for example, you wouldn't want anybody to know how much you are taking as a salary. because it is an intrusion into your financial privacy. People want to interfere in that your financial freedom that you have. So it is a private issue to you. You wouldn't want anybody to know about that. The kind of sickness or diseases, ailments you are suffering from, it is private to you. You wouldn't want people to know about that. Then information or data privacy is the right to have some control over how your personal information is collected and used. So now, your freedom to regulate what kind of information people can have about you, how they can collect that information or use. For example, right now, your location, where you are now, you wouldn't want people to know. Maybe you are hiding away from some problems or some issue. You are hiding in a breeze garden, some hill, or some hotel, having a nice time, relaxing. You just don't want individuals, to interfere in your matter. So that is what your privacy. So where you are, the kind of device you are using, you wouldn't want people to know. It is none of our business. That is because you have the right to control what individuals can have about you. All right. Then privacy is also the ability to control who can access information about your private life or your activities. So you see, for example, when you go on your WhatsApp status, you are able to determine who can see your status or who cannot see your status. That is your privacy. You have the control to determine who can see what you are posting on your status. And it is there, and that is your privacy. There are certain things you would want some category of friends to see, others you wouldn't want other people to see it, and that is your own business. It is your freedom. You have the right to do so. Then online privacy is also the level of privacy protection an individual has whilst connected to the internet. So the same privacy you enjoy around, you wouldn't want people to know what you are taking for lunch. You wouldn't want people to come to your room. You wouldn't want people to intrude in you when you are in the bathhouse or all those other. It is the same way, that same level of privacy must be done online. So there's nothing like the offline privacy should be different from the online privacy. They must be the same. You must get all equally. And now, data security and data privacy. In most cases, these two words are used interchangeably. However, they have very distinct differences. Data security protects data from compromise by external hackers and malicious insiders. That is, you are securing the data so that unauthorized people do not have access to it. However, data privacy governs how data is collected, processed, used, or shared. So the governance. So you see, the fact that you see the way you even collect the data, I should know because it is my personal data. So if you are picking information from me, I should know how and why you are picking the information. What are you going to use it for? Who are you going to share them with? I need to know because it is my data. However, let us know that a data can be very secure but violate data privacy regulation. So if you covertly take data from people, even though you are protecting it, it still violate the person's privacy. So the process of collection, how you process it and then use it is very important in data privacy. All right. Now, our main reason why is privacy so important? All right. Number one, we say privacy is important because it puts a limit on power. Now, let me explain. See, the more information somebody have about you, the more vulnerable you are in their hands. The more they control you. Let's take this point very seriously. The more information any individual or organization has about you, the more control they exert over you. They exert more controls. So you can't be manipulated if someone has so much information about you. And it happens on the blind side of a lot of people. If the government or any institution has so much power about you, your movement. So right now, imagine I know where you slept yesterday. I know what you have taken for lunch. I know where you intend to visit tomorrow, all your plans and other things. I would have more controlling power over you. I will begin to dictate your movement. I will be snooping into your activities. So that's why privacy is important, because the less you know about the individual, the less control you can have on that individual. So that is very important. Then privacy also make us have respect for individuals. Because you don't know any information about me, you don't have any access to things that you are not supposed to see, you don't have any dubious or corrupt information about me. I may have been corrupt, I may have been living a certain type of life, but because you don't have access to that information about it, you maintain the respect you have for me. There are some individuals, the moment you begin to know what they do, there are some of us, or yes, some of us, if somebody should see you at a particular place, say, what? Is that Ferdinand? No, I don't believe you should be here. What is he doing here? You see, it may reduce the respect people have for you, because they wouldn't expect you to have done that. They wouldn't expect you to have been in that location. They wouldn't expect you to have had this. Imagine your boss, gives you the phone to do something for, and you go into his videos and all you can see is pornography materials. How do you think about an individual, or your pastor asks you, okay, Charlie, I have a problem with my phone. And before you realize, you say, Jack, hey, pastor, the first person, hey, now pastor, so also promote the idea. You understand? So this it makes you reduce the kind of respect you have for individual, because you have access to some private information of theirs. Then what? Also for reputation management. Your reputation, your standing in society is very, very much dear and very expensive. People are giving you certain respect. They put you in some pedigree because of who they know you to be. But once they begin to know some private information about you, things that you have done both in the past and recently, it gives them a different perspective about you. Then privacy also helps us to maintain the appropriate social boundaries. There are some kind of your friends, fine, we are all in the NSBE fraternity. Yes, here what we would have to know about you is, hey, Jack, this is the qualification he's having, this is his profession, this is where he is working from. That is what you want us to know. We are not supposed to know the kind of life you live at home, how you live with your parents, your spouses, your children. No. So it puts boundaries, to every setting and what you want them to know about you. So your family will have a different perspective about you, the way you behave at home and other things. They are different. You will like some circles of friends to visit you, to know what is happening in your home. So you could send a video of your child, your newborn baby, trying to walk, and you are fascinated by that. You take a picture and you share it with your family. You don't share that same kind of information with your colleagues at work. So that brings about the social boundary, every social setting, every group of people, and how you behave with them. For example, if we are a lecturer, you can't go and be showing what your baby walking or other things to your students. So it puts different kind of balance. But among your colleague lecturers, you are able to share this information with them free. You can tell them, hey, Charlie, last night I have 3 bottles of beer, and see me, I was drunk and I was just saying nonsense. You can't go and be telling your student this same thing. So you see, the social boundary comes into play. When you meet with your church people, Christian brothers and sisters, my brother or sister, all the conversation is centered about Christ. We are preaching, but you are not going to be telling them, hey, I went to the nightclub and hey, I saw for the first time something I've never seen before. So you see, so every boundary, every group of social organization you belong to, and the kind of information you share about that, because some of the things you would want to keep you going to the club private from your pastor. You wouldn't want your pastor, your cell leader, your group leader to see that. Then it also helps people to trust you, because we don't know what the skeletons in your chop box. We don't know the dirty side of you. We don't have information to that effect. So we trust you for who we know you to be. Then it also puts give control over one's own life. Yes, once you are able to detect the kind of information you would want people to have over you, you control your own life. So you can say, yes, they ask you. So if I ask you, Ferdinand, where are you right now? You can do that. No, I don't want you to know. Yes, so you have control about that. But right now, if I am the one telling Ferdinand, you are at this social, so pray. Hey, they say, no, this guy is intruding in my life. All right. It also gives you the freedom of social and political activities. Now, because For example, we professionals, we are not supposed to be what? Die-hard politicians, even though we all vote, we all have political parties we belong to. But society and people begin to judge you for which part of the political divide you belong to. However, because it is private to you, that's how come voting, we don't allow you to show your vote when you are going to the ballot box. Nobody wants you to want to know, so that it keeps all of us in line, so that we don't know that, hey, whether you belong to party A, they are professional politicians. This is different from you and I, who are professionals in other fields, where we don't want to showcase what we belong to MPP or we belong to NDC. Fine, it makes our life easy. You are not tagged with comment or any other thing that you say. You will not be victimized when your party is not in power. You are able to pass comments without recourse to any political party. So that is what, these are some of the importance of privacy. These are the things that they give you. And you can see that these are the very core things in life that we all aspire to have. All right. Now, responsibilities of organizations is what? One of them is to what? Provide data security, appropriate what? And secure storage for paper and electronic records. Fine. You see, in data protection, it does not cover only electronic records, but the paper ones too, hard copies. If I enter into your office right now, are we going to be seeing people's files scattered all over the place? Is it at a lock and key in cabinet and locked with proper, access process for any individual to be able to do that? Then encryption of data on your laptop, tablet, memory stick, and phones. Authorized access only, no password sharing, and how we even destroy records. It might be appropriate. It is shredded, it is bent. If it is paper record, if it is electronic, how do we erase? Pressing delete alone is not enough, but disposing it off appropriately. All right. Then also, another responsibility for organizations is what? Data governance. Data governance involves what? The process of collecting the information from the people in the first place. Rules, policies, and standards put in place to ensure that, hey, MTN, we have Ghanaian citizens' data, but we have measures in place if anyone wants to have access to this information. Right now, you can't go to MTN and require that, hey, somebody has defrauded me, so I want to know where he is. No, they will not do that. They can only do so if court gives them the order to do so, or if the police request for such information. So I, for instance, can't go and say, hey, somebody have just defrauded, I don't want to know where the person is and trace him and get to it. No, it doesn't work like that. There's a proper procedure that must be followed. Then data governor defines who can take what action upon what data, in what situation, and using what method. So you can't go secretly steal information and at the end of the day come and be using it in court or using it against people. There's proper procedure for doing that. MTN is not saying, or the telcos are not saying we can't show. They know where each and everybody is dialing their phone numbers from. But it's not just anybody that can go for that information. So what do you want to do with it? It must be appropriate and it must be warranted. That's why when you need to do, you have to go for a court order or a warrant from what? The law, from the law court to showcase to MTN, then they'll be obliged to provide such information. All right. Then also when you are sharing data, when your organization is sharing data with other districts, ensure that the party you are dealing with is registered with the Data Protection Commission. And also ensure that they comply with the Act 843 principles and other international standards that are available. Then also, if you want to carry out a project that involves the usage of personal data, then you have to do what we call the DPIA, Data Protection Impact Assessment, to see what are the security risks, the privacy risks about using people's data for a particular product or service that you want to come out with. All right. Then also have what we call the data or privacy by design. It is a way you design systems so that they ordinarily will keep the privacy of the individual. They will not showcase unless the individual explicitly allows his privacy or certain access to some of his or her information. All right. Then there are what we call the data protection officers or data protection supervisor. Okay, they are supposed to be in organizations and they would ensure that their organization is following or is complying with the Act 843. They conduct audits to ensure compliance and address any potential privacy issues that may arise. They also serve as a point of contact between your company and the Data Protection Commission, as it is mandated or affiliate. All right. So that is what data protection officers do. All right. Then who can be a data protection officer or a data protection supervisor? One, the individual must be appointed by his or her organization, and the organization is trained by the Data Protection Commission and certified. You write an exam and pass before you are given the title for a data protection supervisor. All right. Now, what should organizations do? One, every organization that is a data controller. That means if they either collect the information, they determine data protection officers. All right. Then also, you would have to embed privacy into your design. Whatever product or service you are designing, there should be privacy embedded in it, ensuring that the privacy of the individual supersedes any other thing and is respected at all costs. Then there are also many security measures that businesses can implement. Ideally, you should be looking at solutions which cover multiple angles. So all it is about your organization to put in the best measures to ensure that the individual's data they have in their custody is highly protected. All right. Now, under the data protection, individuals, you and I, we have some rights that we enjoy. Number one of the rights is that you have access to your personal information. So any organization that keeps people's information, for example, NSBE, I can write, or any member of NSBE can write to NSBE and say, hey guys, what kind of information do you have about me? I want to know what you have, what you are holding about me, and what you are using them for. And that is your right. The company is obliged within 21 working days to provide you that information. If they will not do so, then they will have to write back to you and tell you why they will not provide the data or they can't provide the data. Then you also have the right to amend your personal data. Fine, already most organizations do it, but should the organization not require for it, but you have changed your address, your location, your phone number, you write to any organization, be it the bank, any other institution in Ghana, that holds information about you. Hey, I have changed my address, I have changed my phone number, my email is there. Please update it as such. And that is your right. They would have to do that for you. Then also, you have the right to prevent processing of your personal information. So if any organization is using your information, processing it, and we mean what processing is: collecting, deleting, arranging, and all that, the constant processing. You can tell them to stop processing your data. However, the organization can tell you we will not stop because, for example, if you go for a loan from a bank, then the following morning you call them and say, hey, stop processing my data. No, they have the legal right to legitimate purpose to do that, or the legal mandate to do that, because you can't take a loan and tell us that we should stop processing your data. If it is due time, we will remind you, we'll send you SMS, we'll send you email. That one is allowed. So the fact that you have the right does not mean you can also abuse it. So it must be appropriate and commensurate with your requirement of what you desire from. Then right to freedom from automated decision making. For example, banks are using AIs and other systems to predict loan, whether somebody is suitable for loan or not. That is an automation process because they are using softwares and bots and mechanisms to do that. However, for example, assuming you took a loan from a bank in the year 2020, okay? Now you want to go and apply for loan, and the computer or the system comes and says, no, last year you couldn't pay your loan on time, so we are not going to give you a loan. You see, that is a computer system. How is it going to know that, hey, last year there was Corona, businesses were shut, and then Accra, the city of Accra and some other places were locked down, so there were virtually no activity. You couldn't sell, you couldn't make money, so you cannot pay. If it's a human being, the human being would understand. So you can write to any organization that is using computerized system, for example, to determine who must win an award, who must be awarded scholarship. But the moment you know that there's an automated decision making, you can ask that, hey, I don't want a computer to make that decision. I want you to include a human being so that they can listen to my side of the story before they pass judgment or before they make their final decision. And you can also prevent processing of personal data for direct marketing purposes. So when companies are sending you unnecessary SMS, unnecessary voice calls, unnecessary emails, you can say, hey, Jack, you company, I don't want you to send me any information again, and they must stop. They also have the right to seek compensation through the court. That is, if peradventure any organization, by way of using or a breach of your personal information at their side, it causes any harm to you, and you can prove that in court, then the court can allow award some form of compensation to you. Then you also have the right to complain to the Data Protection Commission. Assuming an organization keeps on sending you SMS, you have complained to them, they have refused and continue to send it. You have every right to report this issue to the Ghana Data Protection Commission as well. All right, so that brings us to the end of this brief interactions with you. Any questions, or it's time for questions, please?
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel, for this wonderful presentation. I think in the last 40 minutes or so, we've learned a lot about data protection. We've learned about the Data Protection Act. We've learned about our personal rights. And I think from an NSB standpoint, I think I can say that we've also learned our responsibility as an organization to ensure that the data we provide, the data we collect is properly collected, properly processed, and that that data doesn't fall into the wrong hands. So at this moment, I'm going to open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please, you can either raise your hand or you can just unmute yourself and then read out your question.
Good morning, this is Gabriel. I sent him some questions via the chat. I don't know whether you want to take them or you want me to repeat them. Your instruction was to send the questions via the chat.
All right.
You can.
I think I've seen. Yeah, so I'll address them in the chat. Okay. The first question is there a way to know your personal data has been stolen by hackers? Yes, there are ways that you can know. You know, the hackers have what they call the dark web, where anytime they steal individuals' information, they put it there and people can do. And there are websites that you can set whether your data has been breached or not. And also, when the data gets into the wrong hands, for example, we can know hackers have intruded into your system. If the data, for example, data about your health record is made public on a particular website, then we can know hackers have stolen that data. By the time you realize people's financial record is published from, let's say, a particular bank in Ghana, let's say ABC Banks Limited, before you realize customers' information has been published, then we can know that their data has been stolen, or hackers have stolen such data. So that one you can know by, if they publish it, yes, you can know. Then you say, how can we protect our personal data, our personal computers from hacking? Yes, the best way to protect your computer from hacking is to make sure at least you use a very good antivirus. That's the first point. You use a very good antivirus. You know, most of the time we go for these free things. Everything that is free has a cost to it. But once you buy, it depends on how you value your personal computer and the information that you have on it. Then you give that equal level of protection to it. So for example, you are writing your thesis, your master's, thesis that you are writing, PhD and other stuff, or even your first degree, you have all this very sensitive information that you are working on your computer. It doesn't take you so much to buy maybe $10 per month antivirus where you subscribe to, or even per year, let's say $50. And that is let's say about 30 Ghana cedis per whole year, just to protect your computer so that it is well updated. So I would advise the use of antiviruses on your system, current one, or you activate if you are using Windows, we have the Windows Essential, activate it. Then also let's stop downloading free stuff. Free stuff are very costly. You know, some of these free stuff, embedded in them are backdoors that hackers can use to attack you. So anything that is free, you want Microsoft Office for free, you want free movies, the free things, they embed them in these things. And also when clicking on links, WhatsApp platform, I think this afternoon or this morning, I was just advising on one platform that we have. People are always forwarding things. They say Ghana government is distributing coronavirus package. It is not true. You see, these are links that when you click on is leading to hackers and viruses that can be downloaded onto your devices. So downloading unnecessarily from the internet, from sources that you don't know, crack versions of what, softwares that we use for commercial purposes. We should stop all this, and then your computer can be protected from hacking. Then also, you are considering all the apps we use. Can we say we have control over our data? Well, the truth is that we don't. You don't, because one, some of these apps, they have the mechanism there. For example, to share your data, to allow other people to have access to your data, but we don't do it. Ordinarily, we always think we know how to use a particular system. We get it and we just jump on it to it. Recently, I was a victim of such a scenario. For example, we bought in our office this Vodafone, phone lines. This modern phone that the cordless one, but you use a SIM card to place in it. All right, when it came, we thought this is a normal telephone, so nobody read the manual. We threw everything away. Not only there was radio in this particular a phone. So one day when somebody came to our office and switched on the radio, they said, "What? Is there radio in this?" I said, "Yes." So then I realized, see, we thought we knew. We didn't read the instructions. We didn't read anything about it. So the same way, everybody downloads Facebook, WhatsApp, and straight away we start using. We don't read about them. They have all these options embedded. They have written them down. If you want to do this, how you have to go about it. The rights that you have, what you can do to protect yourself. We have two-factor authentications in all these, but we don't read them, but they are supposed to be for us. So while with this, I can say with the many apps that we use, we don't have control over our data, because some of the apps are rogue apps. They are for different purposes. Their aim is to steal data from you. I don't know whether last year or last 2 years, there was this app that came up. When you download it, then you will see how when you grow old, how you are going to look like when you grow old. My brother, what has how you grew old got to do with you now? How would you want to download apps to see that? Where is that data going? They are keeping them for some purposes other than just showing you whether you are going to grow old, how you look like, or all that thing. So, well, I would say with all the apps that you are using, you don't have control over your own data because it is spread all over the place. People go on all social media telling them where they are staying, sharing personal information, their emails in a group chat. You want people to call you, somebody to call you. Instead of you private messaging the individual, you are putting the information into the entire group, and everybody now knows where you are. They know your email because you have shared it. So these are the reasons why I would say, yes, we don't have control over our personal data. But other than that, if you are dealing with the other big organization now, because the laws are biting them, they are charging Facebook, they are charging WhatsApp, Microsoft, always all the time in Europe, in the US and other jurisdictions, that are tough and can bite. They are dealing with them. So they are also being very careful as to how they are using our data now. And remember, the Cambridge Analytica issue with Facebook also was another very big issue. So every organization is very, very careful how they are sharing information with third parties now. They have very strict conditions to, deal with. So from the organizational level and from all these known, companies, yes, they, to some level, they are meeting the demands to protect our data. However, the other ones, any app in the system that you don't know where about, you don't know where the developer is, what the intention is on funny apps, that one you don't have the control over it. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you did, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah. So are there any more questions or contributions from the audience? Please just feel free to unmute and then let us know what you have to say. Okay, while we're waiting for that, personally, I have a question about, it's not just companies or even criminals who may want this information sometimes. So there's always this argument about how much data the government can have on us, on people. And so where does, where can we draw the line between government needing this information on people, maybe as a result of investigating people, maybe investigating criminal activities, and where does government reach end and then your privacy begin? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. How do we marry the two of them?
Okay. You know, the law in itself, per the Ghanaian law at 843, to some level, some institutions are exempted. For example, when it comes to national security, to some extent, they are exempted from, you being applying all sections of this act on them. Because, with matters of national security, we can't say, you can't say, for example, if I ask you ordinarily to disclose your location, that one fine, you can decide not to do that. But if it is of national security interest, maybe the individual we are looking for has committed a particular crime and we need that kind of information. For national security reasons, we have suspected some Al-Qaeda people have entered into the country. They are with some individuals who want to get their bank records and other things. That one is national security. They can go ahead and get it. So the law may not apply. That's why you see the limits. So the government must also be put in check. That's some information. When it becomes too much, government are collecting too much information about it. It becomes serious because they will control us. That's why wherever in the world you could see that the moment the government want to go another further step by collecting more than necessary, every information that is needed by a government institution should be limited to, the purpose for which they want to use it, not to collect too much information about us. That becomes dangerous. However, governments are very powerful and they have their own way. But however, we also try to, the act and other things try to regulate them. So that's why, for example, the Data Protection Commission in Ghana, when all these things were happening, in fact, they have done very good job. But you see, they don't publicize what they've been doing. For example, when the issue of the data, about Ghanaians, published by the EC went viral and other things, they went to Jada, hey, no, it is not right. You can't. It is against, these rules and regulations. But they talk, most of this is they talk at the backstage. So it wouldn't come into the known of the public because at that particular instance of time, you saw how the country was not. So you wouldn't add petrol to already burning flames to, cause a whole lot. But they went into advice. So there have been several instances where they will go in quietly and say, no, what you are doing is not right. Put in place these measures to avoid that. So that is why, even though they are also under government, they are government institutions, but they have the authority to also regulate the government or to decide or advise government on what to do. So yes, where the government takes too much, and we all know that it is too much, we should all add our voice and complain. Other than that, it will be used against us. I don't know if I've tried to answer you.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay. So again, I'm still opening the floor if anybody has any question just before we close.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, Freddy.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, I think he spoke about data privacy and how important it is. Sometimes we get into situations that we wouldn't know we are potential risks of sharing valuable information about us, ourselves, particularly maybe on Facebook, WhatsApp, and all that. This time around, you find people reaching out to you in so many ways. I mean, recently, somebody reached out to me on WhatsApp, sending a link that they have a valuable information about me. I need to quickly do something and click it and then reach out to otherwise it will be on social media and all that. But then I realized that sometimes it's a bait, like what the speaker spoke about. But my question is, in such scenarios, what do you immediately have to do? Do you have to probably report those people, or you have to? The best way is to ignore them completely, whilst being on the lookout if maybe your Facebook page is hacked or your social media handle is hacked. What do you have to do? What is the best way to react in order to protect yourself from such hackers? Thank you.
Okay. The truth is that most of us, we have already exposed ourselves in so many ways already. So the best is to be on the lookout, and anything from the internet, from anybody, that your first perception is that don't trust the information, regardless of whoever it is coming from.
Yeah.
sending information from that address and you may think it is a correct one. So now anything happening on any of the social media, treat it with content first. The first assumption that this is not true. Even if they have access to your information, never pay any money to anybody because they said they are going to release your information. And the first thing that you do is that report it to the National Cyber Security Center. The National Cyber Security Center in the first place. Report it to them or report it to the police. Cyber cyber crime unit. Report it to them that, hey, this is the information I've received for such individual, and this is what they are saying. Then you also try as much as possible to reset your passwords. Now, most of these social media platforms have what we call two-factor authentication. So even if you know my password, if you try to log into the system, it's going to send me an SMS. And once they send me the SMS with a code, if you don't know it, you can't log into any of my accounts. So as much as possible, WhatsApp has it, Telegram has it. Yes, I think Facebook also has it. So let's try to find out what it means to implement two-factor authentication. It is one of the best ways to prevent your account from being hacked and from your information being misused. And at times, just search about your own self, your own name on the internet and see. There are so many accounts on Facebook or other social media platforms that may have purportedly be open in your name. Meanwhile, it is not you. When you find out this thing, report it to the appropriate authorities. So if it is Facebook, report it to Facebook, tell them about it. Somebody is impersonating you on the internet, on their platform. You give them explanation and details, and they will shut them down. And also, the moment your phone on any of your gadgets gets missing, immediately tell your friends by any means possible. Announce it to your friends and change your passwords immediately when any of your gadgets gets missing. These are some of the few tips that we can do. But already we have given out too much information. Somebody goes to a particular restaurant to eat. Then you go on Facebook, you tag yourself to that location. Why must we know that today you went to Kuala to shop? You are going to the bank, you are telling all your friends and neighbors, you put it on your status, the dress you are, you take selfies, the dress you are wearing, and I spot you somewhere. Facebook is good, social media is good for advertising purposes and other things, but it also is being used by criminals to do. Excuse me to tell you this. There was this lady that was posting, all manner of things on Instagram, all right? People got interested in her and managed to lure her and rape her. This is an issue that she can't tell anybody, but it happened. She was posting all manner of pictures about it. So the trick that was used, that she was going for a job interview. So you see how this thing can meet out to be. She was going for a job interview, dressed nicely, went for the job, and she ended up being raped. Where did the people get the information? On her Instagram page, because she was showcasing herself, going to the beaches in her bikinis and other things. So this is how serious some of these things can be. Now, it's only some few of the friends that know. You are not going to get this information. Nobody is going to tell you about it. But this is to the extent of what even the ordinary posting that you think you are doing. This is how it can lead you to. Some shops in Medina here in Ghana where everything was ransacked because they were advertising on Facebook. Their location was there. It's good to advertise, but showcasing their material, new arrivals, about fresh one, the following morning. By the time they got there, everything was looted from the shop. So you see, it has a good side and a bad side. I rest my case. Anymore?
Yes, I think Gabriel Annan, you were raising your hand. I don't know if you still want to ask your question.
Sure, Gabriel, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I think maybe Gabriel has changed his mind. So Peter has raised his hand. So Peter, please go ahead, unmute and give us your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, with regards to data privacy, of late, cookies, do they also cause a threat to our privacy? Because you open a website and then they tell you that cookies, like they rely on cookies for efficient running of their site, and you don't even have any options to either to prevent them from maybe storing cookies on their site. Do they pose a threat to us?
Yes, in fact, in other jurisdictions, there are specific laws regulating the use of cookies. So cookies, let me explain, are snippets of information that anytime you visit a particular website or use a particular online system, it is downloaded on your computer. And it keeps track of certain information that it can always be communicating with the server to send those information back. So that is what Peter is referring to, and it is all over the place. Now, every website that you do, it is telling you, it will indicate you the type of cookies, that you can, that will be downloaded. Some advanced ones have the option for you to determine which ones. Some are mandatory. For example, the ones that will help the website to function appropriately. For example, if they know your screen size, the type of OS you are using, they can, the system will divert you to the appropriate one that is, good for your screen or the type of device that you. So those are, we call them essential cookies. All right. Aside that, there are others so that they would want to track from your location and all those kind of. That one, if it's a good website or a good platform, they will give you the option to turn it off, or by default, it should be off. Then you decide to turn them on or give them those information. So yes, cookies are very dangerous. So we should read about them. It is good that every website that you go, read their privacy policy to know the kind of information they are collecting, what they will be using it for. But most of the time, you may not have the chance to be able to read all this. We are in the right, you just accept. However, even once you accept, going forward, get the time to read about it, because your own privacy is in your hands. Nobody's going to do that for you. So yes, cookies can be very dangerous. So they have two sides, a very dangerous side and a very helpful side. The helpful side is that, the screen that you are watching, the kind of content they are showing you based on cookies, it can give you the appropriate one that is good or equal for your system and you yourself. Then the other side too, it can be used to collect information without you being aware. All right, I hope I've answered you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, if there's one last question before we close, we've gone 10 minutes beyond time. Okay, Gabriel, so let's take your question and then.
Yeah, hello. Good evening.
Hello. Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't join yesterday. I just got home and somebody made a reminder. My question is that I want to know if there is any useful site that one could just use to check to see if you've exposed a lot of your personal information online or something. What I know of is this Have I Been Found, which for that one uses your email address to check. So I want to know with regards to your PII, I want to know if there's any site that could help us to know if more of our information is out there. Thank you.
Okay. I also personally use Have I Been Pawned to check regularly to see. But aside that, I don't know of any, but I think since you brought it our attention, maybe we'll look for alternative. And once I get it, I will share it so that everybody can have access to that. It's good regularly. You have to just check yourself whether you've been hacked or not. So the website Gabriel is mentioning is Have I Been Pawned?
Yeah.
I like as they Have I Been Pawned? The pawn is PAWN.com.
Yeah.
So once you go there, you type your email. And if the email you have typed is involved in any data breach across the world, it will show you. But if not, then to say, hey, you are clean. So that's a very popular website that is used to check that. So regularly, just go there and check if you have been involved in any data breach. Yes. Okay, so I'll find out if there's any alternative to that, and I'll make it available for all of us.
Okay, so I can add this one. We have Hunter, hunter.io. Okay. That one will let you know your company email address if they are exposed, on the internet. It will tell you where they're exposed, maybe the website, they give you the address to the website. So that could help you to see if probably your employees are actually using their private or the company email address elsewhere. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, hunter.io. That's very informative.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Please share if you can, please share the site on the chat. Gabriel asked if we can type the sites there. So if you have the link, please share it in the chat for others to be able to know. Okay, thank you. All right, so thank you very much first to Emmanuel for this lecture. I think you have certainly posed a lot of questions to us all, and we need to be really mindful of our privacy, especially privacy online, because like you said, there's a lot of information. We give off a lot of our information on the internet, and we agree to so many things. We don't really read anything. We just accept terms and conditions and things like that. So thank you for bringing our minds back to this and letting us remember to check ourselves online. And also thank you to everyone who was able to make it. We are interrupting your Sunday evenings. So I'm really happy that you were able to make time for us this evening. So I've dropped a number of some text in the chat. We host this speaker series every month. This is our second edition. I want to keep it going next month and the month after that as well. So if you have something wonderful like this talk that you want to share with us, just please reach out to us on admin@nsbegh.org and we will attend to you and help you set up this. Also, NSBE Ghana is going to be hosting a speechcraft beginning hopefully next month. And this is going to help leaders or people who are looking at achieving that or looking at getting to that level. It's going to help them to improve their communication skills, especially public speaking skills. Spots are very, very limited. So if you want to take part in this program, it's going to be over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, just 1 hour every weekend. So if you know that you want to be part of this program as well, just click on the link in the chat and then you'll fill a form, give us some of your data, and then we'll get back to you if you qualify. Okay, so thank you again. Thank you, everyone. And then we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, NSBE Ghana.
Thank you all for attending.